Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chris Ferguson, your host of You've Championed Yourself. Who are you? It has always been a dream of mine to showcase people who have taken their dreams, their ideas, and turned them into their reality. As they reach beyond their personal struggles, their pains, their traumas, where so many people gave up, these people didn't. They walked through their obstacles and their challenges, not knowing where it was going to take them. They trusted themselves enough not to give up, to do the follow through in personal life, their career, and in relationships. These are champions themselves. They just don't champion themselves. I'd like to welcome Kehly MacDuff today. She's an amazing individual. Um, a wisdom teacher, a light worker, and a heart center, all kinds of amazing things we're going to talk about today. But let's welcome Kehly to the podcast. Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. The story that attracted me to you was I felt your energy on our call yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt all of your pain. So what I'd like to talk about is your backstory, some of the things that were really tough and hard,
Mm-hmm.
but that you made it through.
So, starting like from childhood,
Well, you can talk
or just
about
kind of bullet point.
yeah, you can kind of
Okay.
bullet point it, or if a specific incident comes up, like for me, it's the one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through were 3 near death experiences.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's usually when I talk about that. So,
Absolutely. Okay. So, I grew up with addiction, alcohol and drugs, and mental, emotional, and sexual abuse from a very young age. So, from a very young age, my mom had mental health. Um, I don't like to call them issues, but just mental health struggles, and what I later realized is a lot of childhood trauma. So that's where I realize now my childhood trauma has a lot to do with my experiences and my perception of this world and who's coming into my life. So from a young age, I had men in my life who were supposed to take care of me and love me and keep me safe, and they either molested me or raped me and sexually abused me and used their power and their dominance and their wounded masculine to overpower me and create fear to the point where I would freeze. And
mhm.
I didn't know how to use my voice then. I got in shit when I would express emotions, and outbursts like anger, let's say, was showing up. Um, so we were always told to, like, if you want something to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about, and then get hit again, or um, you keep your emotions under wraps. And I was also a very high level athlete, so you could not allow your emotional body to take over, let's say, a game, like an important game, or at practice you can't be acting out because it's going to affect everybody. So you were just so conditioned to be so rigid and almost to, like, not have emotions, and if you did, they weren't welcomed. So that was kind of my experience from a young age with men. And then my dad and my mom split up when I was 4. And I remember multiple times my dad held a gun to my mom's head, and we had to run to the neighbors, and he would come home drunk, and they'd like, he'd beat her up, and then it'd be yelling and screaming back and forth. And my oldest sister, he'd hold her up against the wall, like a foot off the ground, and have her by her throat. And that wasn't even his biological daughter. So I'm not sure why he took, like, that level with her, because he did hurt us and abuse us, but not to that level. And with my mom, when they ended it, she ended up slitting her wrist, and she was trying to show him how much pain she was experiencing internally by giving him a physical, like this, like a fuck you, this is how much I'm hurting.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, she did that in front of all of us, and we
Mm.
got to witness that. So we got taken away, put into social services, and at that time, my mom had to go to a psych ward, and I was too young to know at the time, but I do believe they they diagnosed her with bipolar. And then she worked her way to get us back, and then she got back on her own feet, but never really, she was strong for us, but she was never strong for herself. What I would say is she didn't have a backbone, and no self-love, no self-care. And she tried to live, for us kids and support us. She ended up going to welding school and becoming a welder and an oil man, like in the oil patch. And it's in a men's world, like redneck, like women don't belong here. They belong in the kitchen and, cooking dinner, that kind of stuff.
I've walked that mile.
Yeah,
Back
so
in the
like,
day. Yes, I know
just,
exactly where that is.
yeah, she was a high achiever on many levels, high performer, very good at everything she set her mind to do. But it ended up, she got into a toxic relationship later on when I was in grade 5. So my dad left when I was 4. My mom kind of found her way back. It took 4 to 5 years, and she was raising 4 kids as a single mom. Had a couple relationships through that, but not healthy ones. And the last relationship she had, I had never seen her as happy for the first year. So from grade 5 to 6, I was like the sparkle in her eye and those belly laughs, and she was dancing and just drawing and coloring again, doing those things that really, brought sparkle to her soul and that joy. And then all of a sudden it went from, she was using cocaine, like they were out partying, and that's kind of the norm in that oil patch industry, rugged. You work hard and you play hard. And using cocaine is actually quite common in that industry. And when you make that kind of money, because you make ridiculous amount of money as well, you can afford those kind of drugs. So it went from cocaine to crack to heroin within 5 years. And not because my mom wanted to be an addict, but because she didn't have the strength to get out of it. And she tried many times, but also back, in the 2005, nobody talked about mental health. Nobody talked about addiction. Nobody talked about, if it's drugs or alcohol or shopping or gambling or sex addict, like
I
those are
think they
all.
did, but you had to acknowledge you had a problem. Otherwise, if I'm drinking and getting drunk and I fall down, I have no problem falling down and getting back up, as that's my awareness as an addiction.
Of course.
The fact is how did all of this affect you as a child?
So it affected me by, I only had 2 emotions, happy and mad or sad. And I wasn't educated on myself, even in school. Like the school knew what was going on. The educational system knew what was going on. And social services coming into a foster care doesn't mean they're actually doing their due diligence and their interrogations and actually taking these kids outside of these environments and doing, I wouldn't call it an interrogation on the child, but maybe the parents or the foster parents, because what was happening in that foster, when I got removed from my mom's care, and then when she went on her 5-year journey, I didn't see her for 16 months at one point. And when I went to this foster care, the man, the father, was raping me for 2 years the whole time I was there. And I was afraid. I was afraid to say anything because I didn't want to break up a family. It was my best friend's parents because they applied to be my foster parents instead of me going into the system. And yet it was a more brutal environment physically for me than the mental and emotional trauma I was experiencing, being with my mom. So it was a different kind.
I'm feeling that both would have been extremely traumatic,
next level,
regardless.
Next level. Yeah, regardless. Yeah. But the physical, what was happening to me,
yes,
and I just felt paralyzed.
You do. You have 3 responses whenever you go into, you have shock, you have fight, or you have flight. And so the fact is, or freeze, it's freeze, fight, or flight. And in those responses as children, we don't know how to respond. But I want to say, one, I honor you for your testimony. I honor you for your experiences. And I honor you for being here today, because a lot of people who have been sexually molested fall victim and become in that victimhood or victim status the rest of their life and don't know what to do. Yeah. So what I'd like to talk about now is that, what sport did you play?
So I played every sport growing up, but then when I got to grade 8, I stuck with volleyball and basketball, and like indoor volleyball. And so my behaviors from, let's say, grade 5, when my mom was checked out and MIA. So grade 5 to 6, I was like getting drunk, smoking weed, getting in fights, attracting, like kind of had like a chip on my shoulder, and so grade 5 to 6, I was just not on a good route. And then grade 6 to 9 pretty much is when I was like figuring out my way, who I was without my parents, who I was without, the identity of them. And then what I realized is in grade 9, I don't know how I made this choice, but I made a conscious choice at that age. I'm either going to go down the same route as my parents, which is unsatisfactory and unrewarding. And it's going to end up either me on the streets and dead, or, who knows, or I can make a new way, like a way that I don't know, but I have coaches who are supporting me and believe in me, and teachers who are telling me I'm worthy and lovable. And so grade 9, I chose basketball and volleyball. And then from there, I was like the top 100 level athlete in Western Canada for 3 years in a row, grade 10, 11, 12. So I would get invited to Best in the West down in Vancouver, British Columbia every year. But when I was going into my grade 11 year, I was at a UNBC ID camp, and they were trying to scout me for once I hit post-secondary. But we turned the ball over when I was playing basketball, and I was backpedaling, running backwards. And I wasn't picking up my feet, and my shoe gripped to the ground, and I slammed my back, just fell like full force. And then I couldn't get up, but I felt pain. But I thought everything I had ever worked for, that choice in grade 9, I committed to. I'm going to go to post-secondary. I'm going to go to the next level and get my education paid for. I thought it was all like crashing down. And I was like, grade 11 is like the time to get after it, right? So being stubborn, I drove 6 hours back home, and I was like, you better drop me off at the hospital. Like, I can't move, I can't walk. And I had crushed 3 vertebrae, and just, I was supposed to be on bed rest. I should have had back surgery, but back surgery would have meant I would have been like on bed rest and back brace and wheelchair for about 9 months recovery time total between surgery, physio, and all that. And I said, I don't have 9 months. I need to continue working. What can I do to work through this pain? So the best thing I did was to stay strong. And there were some days I couldn't walk. I couldn't get out of bed. So I just honored myself. But the days I could, I continued to play volleyball and basketball. But I got hurt 2 more times in grade 11 and 12. Took a jump shot. Girl pushed me in the air. Boom, fell on my back. I wish I was a cat, landed on my feet every time. But unfortunately, I was like, oh, shit. And then another time I fell on the ice, because in Canada, it's quite icy, and just fell the wrong way. And so in grade 12, I had volleyball and basketball scholarships throughout Canada, and, could have went to the US right away. But with my back, I chose volleyball because it's not a contact sport. When you're going to jump.
Yeah, I don't know. I played volleyball in high school, and it could get contact going up for the ball at the same time with one of your
totally at that level. But usually post-secondary, people are standing on their side, where you're going to dive, and when you're jumping. Whereas basketball, they just take you out. They stick their knee out. They tackle you, like hold your jersey.
Right.
So it was safer for me to go with volleyball, I guess, is what I like kind of made that logic in my brain, is if I'm going to pick one sport, volleyball. And then that led me to go to GPRC, which is Grant Prairie Regional College, for 2 years in Grant Prairie. And then from there, my coach she resigned, but she was going to be fired. So nobody was going to come back and play. And it was actually, I was about to quit on my sophomore year. People from the US would call it my second year, because it was not fun. Nobody was enjoying it. We were winning games, but it just was not fun anymore. Right. So I moved on and got NCAA scholarship to the US, a Division I scholarship to the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. So I chose to transfer my junior year, which is your 3rd year. Typically, you play 2 years college, and then you go on to play university. And in Canada, you get 5 years eligibility to play post-secondary, whereas in the US, NCAA, you only get 4 years. Right. So I lost a year, but yet I gained such a different level of experience, and a full ride down there is like everything paid for. You're treated like the best, and
Royalty, royalty.
yeah,
No,
royalty, literally
I coach flag football for girls in high
royalty.
school. Absolutely, I understand
Yeah.
it. I
So,
competed in the States, but my source of sport was competitive swimming.
oh, I love it.
When I was out at the orphanage at 8 years old, I learned how to swim, and I beat the water up to take out my anger.
Wow, I love it. And that's what brought me to the court. I think I took my anger and resentment
Mhm.
and rage and trauma to the court, and it just made me work so hard in a more
It pushed you
positive way.
yes, but it gave you positives, but it gave you reflection. So at 13 years of age, I had swam from 8 to 13. So in 5 years, I had gone from not knowing how to swim to be a competitive swimmer, swim against boys because I knew that would make me faster. And then
Oh,
I
I
went to the
love you.
Junior Olympics in the state of Colorado. I grew up out west, so I'm very familiar with Western Canada.
That's great. That
And
thanks for sharing that. And like you said, playing with the boys, and that's what I did to get better because I knew if I could keep
mhm.
up with the boys, I could play with the girls.
Oh, you could beat the
And
girls. No,
well,
couldn't
that
you?
too.
Yeah,
Maybe my
but
old self was like, beat the girls.
yes. So the fact is that um, I took the Junior Olympics in my age group at 13, and at
Wow.
the end of every group or every they didn't call them groups. You had different events, and you had like 4 groups in the events, and so the last 6 swimmers from all the highest times in the last group swam, and I took that in my age group. So then after that, everybody that was the number 1 person in their section swam against each other.
Wow.
And the girl that beat me was a girl named Sharon Gould, who went to the Olympics that year and got a silver Olympic gold medal, but I
So
was in
she
an
was next
orphanage.
level.
Well, no, the thing was, is it wasn't in the cards for me because the orphanage wasn't going to allow me to go.
Interesting. Why is that just something
They
they just
didn't
not
care.
open to?
They just didn't
Oh,
care.
they held you back at that point.
So the fact was, is so, but they couldn't take that away. I mean, girls got rid of my ribbons. They were jealous that I was getting all this attention for competing, and they couldn't do that. So it was craziness. There was a lot of bullying going on. So we
No
have dual
kidding.
lives. We really do. But I made the same decision at 8 years old when my mother dropped us off at the orphanage and drove off. I chased her.
Oh,
I literally chased her. I literally ran so hard, Kelly, I ran out of my shoes. And at that point, I heard her accelerate the car and I stopped. And at that point, I quit. I knew anger. I knew hate. I'd never known that before. I just knew it. But it also gave me my spirit guides that came to me and said,
yeah.
"You're not that person.
I couldn't
You're
even
not
imagine.
going to take that path. That's not you. You're not going to." So I made the same decision. If my parents were going to go this way or that way or this way, I'm
Mhm.
taking the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm taking the
You
less
know,
road, the travel,
well,
the
it's
road
not
less
less
traveled.
trouble, but whatever
Yeah.
road they're going down, I'm going out the way because their choices are crap,
Yeah,
just
they're
absolutely
shit.
crap.
They're
So,
shit. Yeah.
absolutely. So at
Yeah.
8, I learned that lesson. So the fact
Wow.
was, is we have had a lot of similarities.
So, can I ask you a question? Have you ever reconnected with your birth mother?
I absolutely did. She came back in our lives, and for years,
Wow.
all I ever wanted to do was to hear her say, "I love you," but
No
I knew
kidding.
it never happened. But I
Yeah.
said to my brother, I said, "Why did she hate me so much?"
You blamed yourself.
No, no, no. She literally
She
hated
hated
me.
you. Wow.
Yes. My brother told me, he goes, "I don't know how true it was because
Yeah.
she was a pathological liar."
Totally, right?
And so she told him, I guess, that when she got pregnant with me, my dad allegedly raped her, but she had 2 more kids with him. So the fact was, is okay, but I get it. Divorce wasn't acceptable back then. We're talking the
Mhm.
60s. So the
Mhm.
fact is so I don't know. I'm not going to take a side either way, but she tried to abort me 3 times while she was pregnant.
Yikes! It sounds like she doesn't have a conscience.
She
Conscience.
doesn't. She
Yeah.
didn't. She absolutely didn't. But the fact
Yeah.
was, is that I was so determined as a being to come into this world and do the work that I'm supposed to do. I just didn't know I was doing it.
You are powerful,
So
powerful,
the fact
powerful
was, is
lady.
I mean, as far as traumas, I had 2 girls in the orphanage try to murder me.
Oh my goodness.
And I told my creator, because I gave up on organized religion when the Catholic Church was the hand that put me in an orphanage.
Oh, that's
And
next
so
level.
I just gave up on that, and I resorted to Native American spirituality because my father is Native American, but that
And
took me
that's
to so many
beautiful.
different
Beautiful.
levels.
I practice a lot of that. Yeah.
So the fact is that I made the same choice you did. I was just a
Mm,
little bit younger, saying I'm not doing it this way.
mm-hmm,
And since then, I mean, I've dealt with cancer. I've dealt with a head-on car collision. I've dealt with a divorce,
mm-hmm.
being a single parent at 22 and have to have a hysterectomy
Yeah.
because of craziness.
How many kids did you have?
One. I
One
had
kid.
two births, two children, but one passed and one's
Oh, I'm
alive.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
needless to say, so we have a lot of similarities.
We
So
do, and I had a couple near-death experiences as well from chronic ear infections, and my whole life I struggled with just ear infections, which had turned into a disease called cholesteatoma, which is a cyst in your middle ear.
mhm.
And it literally just eats away everything in its sight. It ate away all my bones in my ear and into my skull, and it created hearing loss and nerve damage. So I actually have it's a bone anchored hearing aid. So it's
I
on the
might
back
right.
of my head here.
Uh-huh.
And because the hearing aids that go through your ear canals don't work for me because my hearing loss is in my middle ear.
Mhm.
So there's a titanium screw in my skull, and then so the sound vibrates from the screw to the skull to the inner ear, so it
Yeah.
bypasses that outer middle ear. But I had begged my whole life to, like, please help me. These eardrops, these antibiotics are not helping me. They're just like making it worse. And there'd be like blood and pus, and it smelled like I'd say a pig farm. Like you could smell it. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
And it was like rotting from the inside. So when nobody's listening and I'm going deaf, that is next level. Like you feel like you're mental because you're begging for your life. You're saying, I am dying and this is killing me. Please help me, to many ENTs, which is ears, nose, and throat specialists, like doctors. And they just keep handing me off or cleaning out my ear, giving me antibiotics. And I'm like, it's not fixing the problem. It's like putting a Band-Aid over a bruise. It's not
It's
the
not even
problem.
putting a Band-Aid over a bruise. It's
Yeah.
like just ignoring it so that it can get worse and worse and worse. And see, this is a thing about doctors. I have some amazing doctors, but it took me a while to get them.
Yeah.
But most doctors are just treating the symptoms and not listening.
They're not listening. So that was a journey of mine. And what I had realized many, many years later is it didn't matter what I was doing with my ears, they weren't healing. So I went beyond, okay, what is it that I can do or
Mhm.
control, or the doctors? Like, what is it that I need to heal inside of me? And my friend introduced me to plant medicine, ayahuasca, actually. And I
Yeah.
did a few ceremonies with a shaman. And I'm not one to do recreational drugs. I don't agree with it for myself personally because I've seen what it can do to somebody.
Right.
But if it's a natural, like on this earth, like on this planet
The
Earth,
word is
medicine,
homeopathic.
yes, as long as like, and then, but it's a hallucinogenic, and you do feel out of control. And I'm very type A. I like to be in control of myself. But anyways, I trusted my best friend. She had done a few experiences with this shaman who led the ceremony. And what I discovered during my journey, and you don't get it in that moment because it comes at you like at 12D, 10D, like shapes, sizes, like shadows, like it's next level. You don't really understand it. But what came
Right.
through to me was I had prayed as a little girl. I didn't want to hear my parents fight anymore. So as a 3-year-old, I started getting ear infections. And then from that time, it got worse and worse and worse. And in 2014 was almost when I died. Like one more day, the disease would have ate into my brain and I would have went brain dead, I would have been too far gone. And in 2015, I did my first ceremony. And when was done the ceremony, it showed me my little girl self praying.
Mhm.
And I had to go back and rewrite this soul contract to my little girl self. And I just did a visualization, like went in it, like closed my eyes and just visualized it. And since 2015, I can say I have not had one ear infection or one energy block in my ears. And that is one thing I struggled from. I was born in 1988 to 2014 when it almost took my life and nobody was listening. Nobody wanted to hear it. And I found a doctor, like you said, there's a few out there, and he's my earthbound angel. He got me in within 3 weeks. He knew the seriousness of it. He didn't say you're going to die, but he knew how bad it was because he deals with this type of disease on the weekly. And he got me in and he told me at that point, the disease had eaten a hole through my skull that big. So that's how much spinal fluid from my brain was leaking into my ear the night before. And I felt like this ear was about to blow off my head. And talk about feeling crazy when I look normal on the outside.
It's interesting you talk about that because when I was 8, back in my day, we had monkey bars on the playground at school, but they anchored the monkey bars into the ground with concrete.
Oh.
So that's how all the playground equipment was anchored into the ground in concrete. That was the only thing they knew at the time. I mean, it was, we're talking the 60s here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were playing King of the Mountain on top of it, and I fell from the top down through the monkey bars, and the top is like 10 feet, and I fell flat on my head.
Oh, yes.
I was out at the orphanage. They did not take me to a doctor. They did not take me to anything. I started having seizures. Well, of course, when you land flat on your head,
brain damage.
Well, the brain swells when you have that kind of a contusion, and so depending on it. So I just at that point in time, I just said,
Did you have an actual wound on your head too?
Well, I had an indentation, but it wasn't. It was.
And they did not take you to the hospital.
No.
These people are like
so. I mean, I was in an orphanage. That you can't make people care.
Yeah, but you would hope that those type of people care. Like that is your wish.
So the thing is we were those unwanted ones. So it didn't matter.
Is that how they treated you guys?
Yes.
Every one of them? Was there one that was just special or like?
Well, they had their pets. But the thing is they would treat other people if they just didn't care. Or if their pets would say, oh, well, this person's doing that, or this person's doing this, to get them into trouble.
Interesting.
I mean, we're talking kids here. They're brutal. They're harsh. They're,
yeah, they are. Yes,
let's be real, I mean, hey, let me tell you about life. I'm a kid. I don't know anything more about life than you do, but I'm just acting like I do. So follow me, So anyway, so they never diagnosed me, and they just said, oh, it's the stress. She's having seizures from the stress, and put me on phenobarbital. Never checked me.
What is that?
It's like a seizure medicine for epilepsy.
Oh, so that wasn't what you were having because it was the actual brain damage, or like you said, the swelling of the brain.
So it was crazy. And so the fact is for years, from 8 to like 18, I had seizures. And then from all of a sudden after 18, I think it was the transition for me in my spirituality that had hit. Well, actually I would say it was an epiphany that came through, and I knew I had spirit guides, and they kept telling me, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Yeah. And one of my spirit guides, his native name is Goyaha. And most people don't know that. But
and what does that stand for or represent?
Well, it was Geronimo.
Okay.
Geronimo was an Apache medicine man, war chief. He was in our country. He was bulletproof. They shot him so many times, but bullets did not penetrate him.
Wow.
So this is who my spirit guide was. So I understand.
Just a warrior, eh?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was just like a
frontline warrior. Like that's kind of what I'd pick it up like this.
The kids at the high school, none of them knew I grew up in an orphanage. None of them knew that I didn't have a support system.
Well, you probably didn't speak about it either.
I did not, because I didn't want to seem weak to them, but I could be that person that could support them and guide them.
That's so funny because I felt that way too. I was too embarrassed to just own it. And then you put on this persona or you're strong and got it all together, but it's hilarious how you're saying you had their back because you knew that pain and you could recognize, by observing.
Well, I was paying it forward. I was paying it forward
Mhm.
because I was that kid. A lot of these kids in this country don't have that support system. In South Florida, there was a lot of immigrants there, and grandmas raising the kids, so mom, dad, and aunts and uncles can go out and do 2 or 3 jobs to bring the money into the family, and the kids are
Mhm.
running the streets
Mhm.
because
That's
grandma
very
doesn't
much
know.
like in Southeast Asia, the kids take care of each other and the parents are just getting to work to feed the family and,
And
keep a.
that's what it was. But I'm honored to say I was able to get 4 girls graduated from high school that were homeless. And they'd
Wow.
rather sleep under a bridge than at home because their parents were pimping them out for drugs.
Right. And it's so
So
sad. You don't
it
never know
is.
anybody's story.
You don't. And so that's why I say when most people say, okay, I was in law enforcement for 40 years, but who knew? Who you would not know if you looked
And
at
did you
me.
share that information with anybody or did you just keep
I
it
did not.
kind of to your close personal group?
Well, I didn't tell. The only one that knew was my family. I didn't even tell my friends.
Interesting.
And
So
so the
when did
fact
you
was,
start sharing? That would be my question. When did you just
well,
like, this is who I am, whether you like it or you don't, and this is where I've been and this is
I've
where I'm
never
going.
well, here's the thing is I've never cared what anybody thought of me, so I guess that was the reason I didn't feel the need to share, because my
Okay.
past did not
Interesting.
define who I was. I
Hmm.
was defining me each and every day of what I
See,
could
and
do.
I allowed it to define me.
Yeah,
Interesting. So that's why I was embarrassed. I didn't even like to tell people I couldn't hear them. I was like, "Oh, sorry," and then or I wouldn't ask. I'd be like, "Mm-hmm, mm-mm," and I didn't even hear what they said. So I'm like, if I give you a shit answer, it's because I didn't hear you.
right. But here's the
Yeah.
thing is if you don't let it define you, then you're not labeling yourself. You're not taking on that programming. You're not taking on those agreements in your life.
Yeah, I used to be so embarrassed when people would ask who my parents were, like even my last name. Like I was like, oh, because my dad was like not the best guy. He would do jobs and like he had a chain link company fence where he built fence. So he'd finish a job or not complete it or get paid and not show up. And then when he was living on the streets for many, many years with addiction, it was embarrassing, to me at that time because I thought it did define me.
Yeah. But see that knowing the difference, and I was lucky, I had my guides helping me out, showing me the path of what to
Hmm.
walk. And there was many times I said, either give me the strength to fight them off or take me now and just
Interesting.
release and just
Wow.
go with whatever. And every time it's been, no, you've got the strength. Go ahead. And so, yes, I was that badass. I was that one. I was breaking up gang fights at the high school. I mean, I worked the streets of gangs down in Miami-Dade and Broward County. And so the
Wow.
fact is it's being a female doing this. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, you can jump fences. You can do this. You can bench press 200 pounds. It's what?
Hmm.
I was doing what I needed to do to be able to stay in my power, to be able to be that person for everybody that needed me,
Absolutely.
including me.
Yeah.
So when you found your power, how did you become that wisdom teacher for you?
So after university, when I graduated university in 2010, I went through a deep, dark depression because I had allowed that identity to be so wrapped up in being a student athlete. And also, I was given a schedule my whole life. This is where you need to be, how you need to act, like show up to practice, show up to the games, just very structured routine system. You get good grades and put your head down and just keep trucking forward. So when I was done university, I had attracted a man into my life that used alcohol and drugs, and I had told him in the beginning, like, I am not comfortable with that. I lost both my parents to addiction, and I lost my mom when I was in grade 11, and I still hadn't grieved that. So for 7 years I just, shoved that down. I didn't know what grief was. Nobody talked about it. Nobody asked me like how I'm coping through that or working through that. I wasn't told to go to counseling or get therapy. So I had a lot of unraveling to do once I was done being so busy and so conditioned, I say. And when I had to sit in my own shit, it brought up a lot of emotions that I had not even acknowledged.
Right.
And to realize you have more emotions than just two is really eye opening. And so yeah, I was very, like, let's say emotional body for quite a while, very depressed, isolated myself, didn't talk to anybody, like just kind of like went to work, showed up for the classes that I needed to, but just went home and kept to myself. But through that, I woke up one day and my light switch went off and I said, fuck it. Like, this is what this guy wants. He wants me to be crying. And it ended up to be where when we were in the relationship, he had spit on me one time when we were dating, when we were fighting. And it was like, not just like it was like, like in my face. So when you have a lot of anger and childhood wounds, to walk away from that takes a lot of courage. And I did that the first time. And he punched holes in the wall. Like, we had to replace so many doors, and he tried breaking my TV. He threw my phone out onto the freeway when I lived in Arkansas, and he was down there visiting with me. He punched a hole in my door in campus. So I ended the relationship. But when I ended it, an 8-month period, he wouldn't leave me alone. He'd be like, forgive me, you're my dream girl, you're everything I ever had. And anyways, I kind of like, he swoos you back in, like narcissist love bombing you. You're just like, oh, he's telling me everything I want to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So like during that time, we never started dating again, but I would sometimes hang out with him. And again, there was one time he didn't get what he wanted. And he hawked a loogie on me again, like a loogie, like that in my face. And I'm telling you, I'd rather be punched in the face than spit on. I'm saying from experience. So this is the second time. Well, I kick him out of the car and I'm like, I'm so done with you. And then a month later, I find out he's sleeping with one of my family friends, like close to my family, and they're doing it just to stir the pot because that's what they do. So anyways, this was a long time coming. And then when I found out about it, I was about 3 days to go back for my last year of university. So in 2009, I had one more semester to do, but I was done volleyball in 2009. And anyways, just before I left, this is 3 days before I was supposed to go back to the US for my last semester of school to finish up. I was already done volleyball, played my eligibility the 4 years. So he showed up at this pub we were at, and this lady who had been sleeping with him was there. And it was all girls at this pub. All of a sudden, this guy walks in. I'm like, oh, interesting, right? So anyways, he's talking to my sister and telling her like, oh, he wants to be with me, but yet we know what's happened. And I just asked him, can you please leave us alone? My last night, I don't want any drama. Well, he had a bottle of beer. He plugged the beer and shook it, sprayed me from head to toe, like in the bar, beginning of the night. So I was like, whoo, walked away again. Like, I was like, he wants me to cry. He wants to ruin my night. Like, walk away. But I'm about to like cry and just I'm done. So anyways, we go to a different bar. I'm not letting this guy or this lady ruin my night. So it leads to they come to this bar, follow us there. The lady he's with starts yelling at me. We're outside at this point, and she's like throwing the ashes at me. She punched me in the head. I do not like confrontation. I do not want to fight, but I can fight if you want me to fight. Like I do have a backbone, and I've been bullied a lot. So I had a lot of pent up emotions. So it was a volcano waiting to erupt, which it did. So we got kicked out because of course it's drama. They're like, you guys need to go. So we end up on the other side of the parking lot, and he hawks a loogie in my face for the third time. After I've been punched, after a beer's been sprayed on me, after 8 months of a living hell, after I told him to like leave me alone, like an adult. And I blew up. I didn't even know how to headbutt at this point in my life, but I headbutted him because that was the first, when he's this close to you, like, you're just like, boom, that was my first reaction. And then I just punched him, and I was like, and then he just kept saying, hit me again, you crazy bitch. So I did it again, and I did it again. And he got the beating, I say, looking back, the beating of his lifetime. But the anger against my mom, my dad, every man who wronged me. And then I could hear this lady's voice, and she's like acting. At this point, it's kind of down the road because he's taking a step every time he says, hit me again. So again, I'm like, and I don't punch like a girl. It's not like,
no.
Yeah, like psycho. Like, sure, I'm crazy in this moment. You bet. Like, I totally owned it. And at this point, we're like 2 blocks down the road, and my sister's with me. She's just like, holding space, not like holding me back. And he's just egging me on the whole time. And then the lady who's like, he had been sleeping with is driving on the road. And I could hear her voice saying, Kelly, just get in the truck. It's cold out. So every time I heard her voice, it was like, boom. And then he'd be like, hit me again. So after this 2 blocks, I grabbed his shirt because I could see in his eyes he was hurt, but he kept saying, hit me again, hit me again. And his nose is bloody. His eyes are like already bruising. Like he's hurt, but he keeps saying, do it again, do it again, do it again. But at this point, I didn't have any energy, but I grabbed the back of his shirt and he kept walking and it like literally busted off of him. And then I literally collapsed in my sister's arms. And then, you know, my brother came and picked us up. She's like, called him. And it was 9:30 at night. Like I had 1 drink that night and he tried charging me with,
assault,
of course. He goes to the cops. I hadn't reported nothing. So he goes to the cops because he knows I'm leaving Monday. So his whole goal was to try to fuck me up and not go back to the US. But little does he know, yes, you could be charged, but you're innocent until proven guilty. And luckily I had a cop who was on this, in this situation. When he heard my story, he's like, yeah, that's nothing what was said, but you know, I do have to move forward with this. He does want to charge you. So, but I'm not going to make your court date till you're done school. So don't worry, go back to school, come back in January. Like, it's not a big deal, Kelly. So go. Because that was my biggest nightmare. Because he knew that was going to be my biggest nightmare.
Right. He was trying to destroy your life.
He was trying to destroy my life, and he instigated it and stirred the pot and premeditated it. You bet. Like, and at that point, anybody would have erupted. Like anybody.
Yes.
So I owned it. I told the whole truth and nothing but the truth when they came and arrested me. But I asked them, please don't arrest me. Like, I promise I'll cooperate. And they were like, okay, as long as you cooperate. You know, I'm shitting my pants. I had followed the rules my whole life, stayed out of trouble, did everything in my power to just be, you know, of service to the community, coaching and playing high level sports. Like, you don't get yourself into trouble because people know about it, and you're punished by your coaches if you do. Like, severely. You don't get away with it.
Severely. You are.
Yeah. Punished. And so that was my last semester of school, which started that depression that I had talked about. So my whole life, I was a rule follower, overachiever, workaholic, did everything society tells you to do to be happy and successful. And then what I discovered when I was done school, I was like, who the fuck am I? Because now I did everything society says to do. And then I attracted this low vibrational being into my life because of my childhood trauma that I didn't heal. And I wanted to be a fixer and a savior, and I'm going to heal you. I'm going to change you. And then, you know, didn't have the boundaries we discussed earlier.
I was just going to say, you had no boundaries.
Zero. I didn't even know what that was. So I had a lot of boundaries and like standards for myself, but not how people treated me. And knowing now what I know, I gave away my power that night, and I don't blame myself. I don't beat myself up, because in the past, I mean, I did for a good year, and then that light switch went off and I was like, fuck this. Like, I made a mistake. I am human. I can forgive myself. Yes. Was that like extreme? You bet. But when someone is pushed and poked and poked and prodded, you better expect there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction. And in that moment, I learned what boundaries were, and to not give your power away. So those were like beautiful lessons. And then I went and traveled for 2 years, Southeast Asia. I went to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Nepal, India. I traveled in Australia for 3.5 months. I was on the road for 10 months at one time in that 2-year period. And I came home in between to like replenish the funds and see my family. And then I headed back. So for a 2-year period, I got to see, I grew up on like in Canadian poverty standards on welfare and then paycheck to paycheck. And what I learned is I did have the education. I did have the support. I did have the teachers and the coaches who believed in me. And in some of these communities over there, they don't know anything outside their little community. They don't even know that there's a world or a country outside of that area. And I was very humbled when I went over there, because it was a dream of mine as a child. I even made a scrapbook of like cutout pieces from India and the Philippines. And here I was living my dream. So I was crying because of all the pain and suffering over there. And it's very eye-opening. You'll be going down the street and you'll see, you know, these kids laughing and playing, of just like playing with the simplest thing and bringing joy. And then you'll see a guy like taking a shit on the sidewalk and you're like, oh my goodness.
We have that in this country. Go to San Francisco. Go to
and then you like smell this beautiful aroma of curry, and it's just really eye-opening. So I realized, number one, I got educated. So that was a wonderful thing for me to have. I had the opportunity to make my own money and live a better life. So I could go see those places and experience them. And it really opened my eyes up to like what pain and suffering is.
Yes. So how did you get on this light worker awoke path?
So when I was in my deepest, darkest depths of depression, and sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. One sec.
Oh, you're fine. Secret: when you get every morning, you get up, do lemon water with garlic and hot water. It clears all of this out. And because you have ear issues, you have probably a lot of postnasal drip.
Well, and I have a bit of a snotty nose right now. So
yeah, but this will help clear, it'll help clear you out.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Through that, I had to find, so I was very science-based. I had a kinesiology degree, health and exercise science. I did my minor in special education and criminal justice, actually. So we have that connection there. I thought I wanted to go to law school, but what I discovered is I had the physical body, and like I knew how to use my body to get me to where I needed to go, and my mental toughness or perseverance or discipline. But I didn't have the emotional and soul and spiritual. And I wasn't a religious person growing up. I took a lot of things from different cultures and religions and kind of made my own Bible, is what I say. But what I found is a lady who did Reiki. So she did Reiki, and I went to her. So then through that, it inspired me to do level 1, level 2, and then my master's myself, only for my own healing. And that's energy healing to do with your chakras and balancing them.
I'm a master Reiki also.
And aligning them. Yeah, just for like the people who don't know what that is. And so anyways, I had a lot of energy blocks, and I had ears, nose, and throat problems. So a lot of mine, and it was funny how I was coughing because that's your throat chakra. So clearly something needs to be shared or let go of too as well. So with that, it led me to helping others and sharing this energy healing with other people. And then it led me to the Akashic record readings and angel card reading and psychic mediumship and intuition courses. And through that, healing myself and working through my bullshit is what I call it. We all got bullshit, but we got to deal with it. And the only way out is through. So through that, sitting in my shit, I had some amazing tools that I was like, okay, I got to share these with people. So people came to me because I had a fitness, like a private studio from 2015 to 19, a private studio where people would come and train. And I did dry lands and sports specific training. And I did a kids empowerment class for kids who have like anxiety or ADHD and don't do well in a normal setting in the gym in classes. So they would come to me for that. And then I did a lot of general population, just people who wanted to lose weight, gain weight. And then I did nutrition as well. So my approach was body, mind, and soul. Mm-hmm. But people would come to me for the physical, like, hey, get me in shape or train me for this season coming up, or this whatever they were doing, climbing a mountain or going for a walk or wanting to get on the airplane and fit in one seat instead of two. Like it didn't matter. I had clients who were underweight, and then I had clients who were 450 pounds to, ex drug addicts and strippers to like doctors' wives and dentists' wives and, business owners and CEOs. So I had every walk of life from 8 years old to 65 years old. And I did, like strength and conditioning, powerlifting, that kind of stuff. So what people realize is they would come to me for training. And then they're like, okay, Kelly, I want to get on this nutrition train. Like, how do I feel my body? How do I feel it for my goals, feel it for my lifestyle? And then once they got through that, they're like, okay, what is this hamster wheel like going in my head, and my heart still hurts and I feel like not whole. So then that's where I would introduce the healing and the energy work. And what I discovered through working with, I train 60 to 70 people a day. So I worked with lots of people and different lifestyles, like I said.
Right.
And what I discovered is we can't out-train our stress. We can't outsmart our shit marriages or our trauma. You can't out-eat. Even if you're eating all whole foods and all the things we've been told to do, if you do not know the science behind food, the science of how the body works, how it digests it, you know, if you're stressed or overworked or you're in fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, also, what are your attachment styles? So like you can just go so deep with, you know, our, let's say our emotional body shows up through our physical bodies, through ailments, aches and pains, diseases, illnesses, cancers, toothaches, coughs, frogs in your throat, you know, pain in your heart.
Autoimmune diseases, the list goes on.
Yeah, ear infections. So my emotional body showed up a lot in my physical body. So what I started realizing is working with so many people, there was these certain patterns, and I was like, interesting. So now when I shut down my physical location, it was devastating because I had a lot of clients. It was amazing. But my first intention when I did open the doors, I was like, I'll do it for 3 to 4 years, see what I like, what I don't like, what works, what doesn't, what people want, what they don't want. And what I realized is I can't keep up with training 60 to 70 people a day, especially when I have a family now. I'm a full-time stepmom, and I want my own family. So I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this. So at that time, I thank the universe, God, because I closed down in June 2019. COVID rolled out 6 months later. So I was like, whew, they had my back. So I actually felt blessed that my lease, when I started it from 2015 to 2019, it just worked out perfectly. So at that time, when I shut my doors, I was like, I'm going to transition to online because then I can help a lot more people. And I only want to like support and mentor and guide people. I don't want to be the everyday hand-holding teacher, let's say. I'd like to do like the seminars and the workshops and the retreats, and then just like do the accountability and support calls during, you know, the times that I am available. So now my mission is to help people heal from the inside out. You know, why do we do the things we do? What is showing up for you in your physical body? That's actually the emotions and, you know, that soul and spirit and that heart that are, you know, needing to be heard and seen and like valued.
This is a how can I put this? This is reminiscence of so many people who have been victimized when they were a child. And the fact is that they carry the shame, but there was nothing they could do to stop it. There was nothing they could do to prevent it. There was nothing they could do. And they carry that shame into their adult life, and it affects you. I'm so, again, proud of you that you didn't allow it to keep you in that victimhood, because that ruins people's lives.
Yes, it paralyzed me for moments in my life. I would be lying if I did not say that. Whether it was imposter syndrome or just like, don't know what decision to make. But I feel like I did have guides and angels just keep pushing me along, and these little voices inside of me. And when you just kind of get quiet and still enough and away from the bullshit and the chaos of what other people want you to do or to be, it's actually very clear, you know, and you just have this inner knowing, and you're just like this North Compass, you know, this North Star, and it's beautiful once you get in alignment with that.
Well, when you take that pause and listen, that is the paramount key in getting the clarity and getting that moment to silence all of the overthinking and the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yes.
So
and the self-sabotage. And, you know, I was a workaholic. So just because I wasn't a drug addict, alcoholic, I was a workaholic. And, you know, whether you're an alcoholic, a drug addict, a gambler, a shopaholic, just because one's more accepted by society, there might be a longer life span in that. It
Yes.
doesn't mean it's not a crutch or being too busy. Being
Or
busy.
an
Oh, I'm busy.
excuse.
Yeah.
Or an
No
excuse.
accountability. Yeah.
Or an
Yes.
excuse. So
Yes.
it's absolutely amazing. So like I said, I love the fact that you took what was a shit show of a childhood
Yeah.
and turned it into empowering mentally, physically, emotionally, and giving people clarity. That's what I do.
I love
That's
it.
what I've done all my life. Because if you don't have clarity, I'm one of my parents had more children.
Yeah.
I'm one of 11 children.
Wow.
Out of 11, I'm only 2 that has a college degree. I'm only one of 4 that owns a home out of 11. So I didn't
Wow.
become a product of society.
Yes,
That wasn't in my
exactly.
cards.
Like we're a
And
product of our environment. We
yes.
actually seen what can happen and then we're like, "Oh, see ya." Like not happening.
Stage left. I'm out of here. So the
Yeah.
fact is I, like you, and a lot of kids that champion themselves don't do drama. They don't want it. They come from a low key, low background. You know, they're all about staying focused on their path and their mission because they know that if they get distracted, it takes them off where they want to go. So that's why they're so single-minded and focused. And that can be good, but that can be bad because it limits yourself.
Of course.
But I just wanted to say thank you for coming on my podcast today. I loved speaking with you, hearing your story. I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to talk about your backstory. And I encourage you to keep speaking about the struggles and the overcoming those obstacles and challenges, because we need more people in the world to be able to show you can do anything.
Yeah. Yes. And that is my mission and purpose is through my pain, I want to share my story and give people hope who maybe haven't found their voice yet, or they're, to be able to take the next action step towards, creating that life of design and just leaving this place a better place than what we found it. And just, not being a victim of what's happening, and just know that there is hope. And if you have a bit of faith and, just look for guidance or support, or if you can't find that outside of you, go within, and it can lead to amazing, amazing places if you just take the first step.
Yes, it is the first step. Thank you. Hang
Thank
on.
you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Okay, hang on. It takes a special kind of individual to dream their thoughts and ideas and turn them into reality. Kehly MacDuff has done just that. She stepped past her fears, she stayed the course, and had the courage to follow through to the end. Kehly MacDuff, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, your dreams, and your vulnerability with us today.